welcome to Side Character Questions. It's me, back once again, Eli, and with you, as he has always been, is...
Hey guys, this is me.
Oh no.
It's me, it's your friend, it's your buddy, and it's me.
Oh, buddy. What are you doing here, buddy?
I'm having a great time. I'm just here as I won the contest so that I could be on the episode.
Buddy, that wasn't the contest.
I'm pretty sure that was the contest. I got to be on the episode because I submitted 5,000 questions and I got to be on the episode. And I only had to steal Ty's keys one time, and it was great.
Wait, did you steal Ty's teeth?
No, I stole his keys to get into his house. I'm not crazy. I wouldn't steal his keys. That's crazy.
Wait. Where's Ty?
He's in the closet.
Buddy?
I locked him up.
Buddy?
I locked him.
Buddy, I'm calling the police.
Please don't. Please.
I'm calling the police.
Please don't. Please don't.
Let's see. 911. Yes, hello, officer? Hello. There's been a kidnapping. Welcome to Side Character Questions. It's me, once again, I'm back. Eli, here with... Nope.
And it's me, Ty, forcing Eli to go along with his terrible flub right there. I'm just happy to be out of the closet after having been locked up there by a overzealous fan. And man, if... I try my best to provide a little bit of courtesy to the fans, all of you teeming masses, and that leads me to the topic of today's show. Hey, friend Eli, what are we doing today?
Well, friend Ty, today we're answering some questions sent in by some fans, some listeners to the podcast. We didn't actually get 5,000 questions like that guy said.
I don't know where he was sending them. That is like we got a few. We got a decent number. We got some good quality. I'm looking forward to diving through some of the stuff. But yeah, we did not get 5,000. So I don't know who has been getting those.
We did get several death threats.
Yeah, which I don't know if. There were, I don't know if it was 5,000, but definitely hundreds of death threats. So maybe
just an obscene number.
Do you think that guy didn't know the difference?
He might not have known the difference.
I guess
that would explain.
I guess how would you like to die? I guess that's technically a question.
That is a question. And he sent that one a lot.
Yeah, he did. Okay, let's get on to actually answering some questions, because I'm ideally one of the reasons that we're doing this right now is because this is the holiday season. I want to give people a chance to give back. I also want to give myself a little bit of time where an episode that I don't have to edit quite as much. So let's try to avoid making this just go on forever, so I have to cut things out. So I rounded up all the questions, gave them to Eli. Eli chose the ones that he thought people would actually want answered. So he's going to be asking the questions, and we'll be sorting through them together.
Yeah, and real quick, while we're talking about stuff that has been sent in by listeners, I just want to say that I thought it was really cool seeing some of the positive feedback on my characters. So I want to thank everyone for listening and supporting the show and putting all those good vibes out there.
Yeah, it's especially good because, since you did the first two characters, if this show had failed, it would have been all your fault.
It would have been 100% my fault, and it was terrifying.
But instead,
I felt that pressure every day.
But instead, it survived, and that lays entirely on your shoulders.
I am willing to accept the credit for all your success, Ty.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's get into some questions. So one hallmark trait of the show is everyone comes on and they have a pretty short character arc. So the first question that we're going to get into is, do you feel that short campaigns improve the player's character creations by allowing them to explore character concepts they might not want to play for longer campaigns? Or do you think it encourages some leaning on things players already know well? So,
oh, geez, that's very interesting. Oh, wait, who asked that? That's a really like.
that is from Jason.
Jason's got to be like a DM. That's like a very or like they have to be an active player, I should say.
Sure.
Yeah. They have to be somebody that's really into this. Yeah, okay, I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to pull up the list of questions so I can look at this and I don't have to ask you to reread it a million times.
He also asked, how much do you think being recorded for the show impacts character creation decisions?
Gotcha. Okay, so I don't know. This might be more of a question for you. Because my impression is that some people were willing. It really differed from person to person. Like I think that Mallory, for instance, like on the one hand, she's definitely going to go for halfling just because like that is her life now.
Yes.
But I feel like Urk and no, more so Sir Roderick. He was different than you usually play.
Yes, Sir Roderick was incredibly different, and with Eric, since that didn't really have any major connection to the rest of the recording, I pretty much chose him because that was the wildest character I could come up with.
Yeah.
Roderick, the decision for that was I wanted the most basic fantasy character through which you could start to tell your story.
Okay.
So what's more basic than a holy knight in a fantasy story?
Yeah.
In fact, I was worried that I made him too basic when we started, but that was an incredibly different character than who I play. I've never played the lawful good type. I don't know how much of that was determined by me recording or the short-term use of the character.
I will say, I think that when Amber was developing Silas, they wanted Silas to be dealing with some mental illness, some PTSD, paranoia, those sorts of things. And I think that perhaps the fact that this was going to be a shorter thing gave them some freedom to explore that, and knowing that like they only had to go hard and live in that space during the show. I'm sort of speaking for them. I don't know if that's entirely was their reasoning, but it makes sense to me.
Sure, I'll say one major thing that did impact that I thought about when I made the character was short arc, not going to have a whole lot of character development. So it made me really think about their backstory more. Because generally, when I've created characters in the past, like I know you and I and Mallory have mentioned our campaign that we've been playing for the last 4 years. My character is always goal driven. Yeah. So the character in that game, he wants to be the best criminal he can be. And
how he got to that point
did not matter. Like nothing mattered beforehand because we were going to flesh it out as we went. Whereas in preparation for the show, I was like, okay, my character's not going to be changing a whole lot over the course of 5 sessions. So I want to know what drives him to do the things he does. It makes me really want to make sure that I am role-playing the character as soon as I get started.
Yeah.
Not feel my way to the character, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. I dig that. And what was the second half of that question?
Do you think it encourages some players to lean on things that they've already known well?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and how much do you think being recorded for the show impacts their decision? I don't think that recording really impacted my decision that much. I mean, the concept, you and I had spoken a lot about what you were going for, so that impacted my decision, but actually knowing that people were listening did not. In fact, when I was listening to the first couple Eric episodes, I was like, oh, I wish I had done this differently. Oh no, people will listen to this.
Oh man. That is interesting. I don't have anything else I don't think I have anything to add to that. Yeah.
Good question.
Very good question.
Really good. Definitely a Dungeons and Dragons player asked that question. Okay, so rolling into the next question. This is actually about the pilot arc, Eric. They ask, is slavery an officially sanctioned practice in your game world, or is that nasty ringleader flouting the law?
Okay, so I marked this as a defo on our list of our spreadsheet of questions, because I just wanted to hammer home like one specific thing. Eric's episodes are not happening in the same game world as the rest of the arcs. So just like make that completely clear. That was purely a pilot. It is its own separate world, separate thing. In Eric's world, slavery is not officially sanctioned, but it is common, if that makes sense. Like
you all hear that, everyone. Your favorite bird person has been decanonized by Ty. Send all your hate mail to SCQ, whatever email Ty, enter email here.
Yeah. And also, the slavery that we were speaking of in that game was more of the like Russell Crowe sort of gladiator slavery, not so much like American history labor. So just wanted to get that through. In the world of Side Character Quest, of the rest of the episodes, the season one world, the season one setting, slavery and murder and thievery and everything that is illegal in our modern times in America, or in most of the world, our real world, all of those things are illegal in this place, in this setting. All of these things are not allowed.
What about necromancy?
I don't.
Is necromancy illegal?
I was gonna so it probably varies from city to city. It's probably very like discouraged. It's probably very like weird and frowned upon, and there's probably associated things that are illegal, like grave robbing and stuff like that. But one thing to keep in mind is, like, outside of the individual cities, there isn't like a coherent government, really. There's a consistent like currency, things like that, but there's not like one Congress, one whatever that rules everybody.
One nation under Lumen.
Yeah, exactly. There's not even one god that rules over all of the people. Lumen is just one of a pantheon.
Heathen, heretic. Okay, so the next question, and this is a pretty good one. How much influence how many influence? Nope,
you can get it.
One more time.
Okay.
How much influence
even all those in.
Do your guests have in where the story is going?
The short answer to that, in the short term, no, a lot. I was gonna couch that, but like really a lot. I know that it started even before we started recording, because when I envisioned this world, it was I was really thinking about this as an almost atheistic setting. I was not interested in telling a story where like the gods were saving everything, and I wasn't interested in telling a story where the church was bad. So I was like, okay, what's the best way to avoid that from coming into play? Okay, it's just going to be kind of atheistic. But when I invited Eli to come on, he was really interested in playing a paladin, and I was like, well, I'm not going to tell him no. Go for it. You remember I was a little nervous about it because for some reason I thought that was like going to be important to the story, but clearly it's not ended up being an important thing.
Yeah, I remember it was very much a moment where I had to tell you there are 2 classes at least that are centered around deities, and so you would be limiting everyone's everyone's choices. But you heard it. Yeah. I created the gods.
Yeah. I mean, at least Lumen. And on a similar note, I've invited Amber has been helping me create the outside of the recording. Amber's been helping me put together the pantheon of gods, which has been great because they're great at coming up with like detailed rituals and those sorts of things. I think they've come up with like 3 at this point that I've added in. Which who knows if those will ever see the light of day, but I'm hoping they will.
Cool. Right on. So people have a good bit of influence.
Well, wasn't there something on that? Like, was it asking for like specific examples or anything, or am I making that up?
Here's the next question is similar to that, and it's a question that a lot of people asked. What is a moment when a PC, a player character, has caused major changes to where you thought everything is going?
This has happened a number of times. This definitely happened a number of times. Once again with Amber and Silas, that character just, I could never see where they were going. Like at the very beginning of their arc. By the way, if it is not clear, spoilers abound. In this episode, do I need to make a more warning for that?
Oh yeah, if you are this far in and are mad about spoilers, please direct all hate mail to scqpodcast@gmail.com.
Go for it. But no,
or shove it up your butt.
In the first episode of Silas's arc, there was a part where I'll just tell you guys this. The bargainer was supposed to sort of pull, I say in quotes, them out of the river. And they were like, oh, you see a hand like reach into the water. Amber said, I pull away. And I was like, what? So, oh, okay. So you're drowned. You're like, you get washed down the river farther. You like are going to be, this sucks for you, but okay, like you were gonna get rescued, and now you don't. Similarly, the way they ended their arc. So once again, like that arc was supposed to continue up until the point that they either lost or defeated the monster there. But because of some scheduling problem, features, they weren't able to record past where we got to in the show, and we ended up just ending it where they were last able to record, because they ended it there, having made they made a bargain with the bargainer, so that basically Silas would take on some of the bargainer's power to try and save the lives of these people that were important to them, in exchange for the bargainer then getting control of them for a while. We have that decision to basically cut and run, and just say like you save everybody, and then you get control for a bit. That's going to have implications down the road. I already have plans for how that's playing out, and it's bad for the world.
Okay, so well, actually, just real quick, so you do have, this was a question that we had a couple people ask. You do have sort of in your head what actually happened to Silas. It's not just like a storyline with no consequences because it didn't end. It has
yes
concrete.
So basically, okay, here's what I'll say. The bargain that Silas was making was, I give you control of myself, of me. I give you, because the bargainer is a very like intangible sort of thing with a loose sort of grip on the real world, on the physical world, on this plane. So Silas was like, I will give you an outlet to this plane if you save these people. Both of those things happen. Those people get saved, and the bargainer gets that outlet into this plane. The implications of that I will not spoil, because they will come more into play.
All right, right on. That's something that I know has been nagging at my mind for a while.
Been really wanting to know, and I was like,
I don't like unfinished stories.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, which is the other reason I've been nagging you to finish our D&D campaign. I don't like unfinished stories. Okay, anyways, I do know on a much smaller level one moment that I screwed up your plans.
Yeah.
And that was when I busted through a wall without fighting your big monster to get the crowbar.
Yeah, that was like the example of like a puzzle that didn't quite go how I intended.
Yeah, puzzles are difficult, man. Warhammers are easy.
Did you know? Okay, quick sidebar. Did you know that Thor's hammer, the fact that it has such a short handle, is like in the Norse mythology, that's like considered a flaw.
Yeah,
I had no idea. Like that was such a strange thing to me the first time I looked up a picture of a warhammer and saw like that they all have this really long handle. I was like, why is Thor's so short then? I don't get what's going on.
Well, if you think about it, it's the same reason axes have long hammers or handles versus a hatchet. You get more
heft
swinging.
Yeah.
And in fact, fun fact about the hammer that he makes in Infinity War.
Yeah.
That is pretty much the hammer that he has in the Ultimate Universe. But anyways, that's a different podcast altogether.
That's capes and japes.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Okay, so this next question was exclusively sent to us by every single person who has been on the podcast.
Okay.
That sent in a question. So that includes myself, Mallory, Elion.
That's right.
Elion?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool. First of all, also shout out to fellow Eli name. I saw this week we have Eli ... and I was like, no, we don't. But Elion. Okay, cool.
Nice.
So anyways, we all want to know, do you think you'll ever revisit side characters down the line, either as NPCs or actually bringing back guests?
By the way, Elion also said that it's very important to pronounce the eye emoji, which was kind of like.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. The I am. I was wondering if that was just a. Do you want me to just rewrite say the whole thing?
Yeah, re-say the whole thing, but with the eye emoji, sort of like.
Okay, so do you think you'll ever revisit side characters down the line, either as NPCs or having guests back?
Perfect pronunciation of that emoji. Definitely. I have already talked to at least I've actually talked to 4 people about having them back at some point. Which that's a lot of people. And like pretty much everybody that has been on so far, I have really enjoyed playing with. And I felt that they've brought something to this experience, and so I would like to have them back. There's a couple of people who, have expressed interest in coming back as another character. Some people have been interested in coming back as, the same character, but I don't know when that is going to happen. Just because, right now we are finishing up recording Alton's arc. Then I've got 2 more arcs that are in the queue afterwards. Then I have 3 more with that I have sort of a conversation going with some people. Somewhere after that is when we're going to start having people back on. So it's going to be over a while. It's going to be over a period of time.
Well, while we're on the subject of bringing back side characters, I can't help but notice that you've only killed 1 person, and I'm still very upset about it. You really took my KD ratio down a notch in Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't appreciate it, Ty. I'm hoping to hear some more character death in the future.
Okay, I'll do my best. Things could have, let's just say, I have been open to I was kind of glad that happened early on because you will know this, Eli. I've never killed a character before. I've never had anything like that. You're looking up as you think about this. See if I'm leaning back, hand on your chin.
Yeah, every time one of us has died, it's been Daryl.
Yeah, right. Daryl kills everyone.
Our dear friend, our dear friend Daryl, murders characters.
Yeah,
with no remorse.
No remorse whatsoever.
And now Ty has gotten his first taste of blood, and he's coming for everyone else next.
It tastes sweet. I am still like, I still would like to have Daryl on at some point, and I am terrified of having him as a player. Like, I don't know how. I just don't. Someone asked, how do I deal with players who don't interact with the story I try to build for them? Everyone in the podcast seems to be very active, engaging with the narrative, but some of my players don't do anything at all, except when forced to engage with combat. How do I get them to roleplay more? That sounds a little bit. That sounds worse than Daryl, because Daryl will like get into it, and he'll engage with puzzles, he'll engage with like role play and stuff like that. So he's not nearly as bad as they're saying. But what I lead into that question to say, all of the players that I've had have been very, like, everybody I've invited on has been very what's the word I want? Obliging. Cooperative? Yeah, cooperative and obliging, and like. And if I present a hook, they're like, I'm gonna go with this hook. I feel like Daryl would be like, oh, this hook? What if I walk in that direction?
What if I set this building on fire?
What if I set this building on fire? There's some things that happen in Alton's art coming up that it's showing me that I'm being.
Wait, did Mallory give you a difficult time?
Oh, Mallory gave me the most. No, I'm just kidding. She's been a delight.
All right. Just so the listeners know, Mallory and I are married, so every now and then I hear different things going on behind the door.
While she records.
While I am banished to the living room in silence. We sacrifice a lot for good sound quality. Okay, well, moving along, kind of have two similar questions, but we can tackle one at a time. The first one, do you have a whole story planned and happening in the background, or are we exploring the world with these different characters and their experiences? So I take that as something I've asked a few times. Is there a main quest? So like we have our side characters doing their quests. Is there a main storyline happening in the background?
So the answer is yes. There is a main story that's going on in the background. I intend some of the arcs that we're planning in the future to get a little bit closer to that main storyline. But really, like, I think how you should imagine this is a example that's gonna work best for somebody that is familiar with 90s era video games. Imagine Legend of Zelda, where you never really like meet or talk to Link. Imagine like you see the story of a Gerudo who's like trying to make their way into one of the temples. You see.
Can we focus on the Zora?
We see a Zora thief that is looking to leave Lake Hylia and explore one of the main cities. You see all of these different characters because like. I think that there is value in people besides the chosen hero in a fantasy story. There's value behind like the epic person who is going to save the world. They all have stories that are worth telling, and that is the goal here, to explore those stories. Is like there is a main character, and they are defeating, like they're dealing with, not defeating, but they're dealing with some sort of like ultimate evil and whatever, and they're the chosen person. But their story is straightforward and relatively boring to the stories of all of the other people in the world.
It's very eloquently put, Ty.
Thank you.
I'm over here tearing up thinking about Roderick and how we lost a real hero too soon. Okay, along those same lines, though, another question that a lot of people have put forward is there a main character? Like, is there a link type? And if you won't tell us who it is, have we seen them yet in anyone's story arc? Are you willing to give any hints about that? What's up?
I believe we did see them very briefly in Roderick's arc.
Okay. Are you willing to tell us who? Is it the skeleton horse? Is it Moonbeam?
It's Moonbeam. No. Am I willing to tell you who? I
mean, I think you might have told me who,
yeah.
But are you willing to tell the audience?
How about we're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna grab some eggnog because it's around Christmas time, and I'm gonna make up my mind and then come back. Brutal. All right, let's be back in a couple minutes.
Cool. Sounds good. Listener, have you ever just turned on the computer and the first thing you do is you go in and you type in Facebook and you scroll for like 5 seconds and then you close it because Facebook is mostly garbage, and then you sit for a couple minutes and you think, I should check Facebook, and then you realize that you've just been looking at the same garbage over again. Anyways, this episode brought to you by MySpace. That's right, bring your top friends to this MySpace party.
Brutal. All right, so this episode's part of the goal of it is to be able to edit as little as possible, so all that's going in, every last bit of it.
Oh no, don't do that. All right, how's your eggnog?
I forgot nutmeg.
This week's episode brought to you by nutmeg, apparently mandatory for eggnog. Listeners, I actually don't know how to make eggnog, so if anyone wants to shoot me some eggnog recipes, and I only want your best eggnog recipes, please tweet them to the Side Character Quest Twitter handle, which I believe is SCQ Podcast. Tweet them at Ty there, and make sure that he tweets it to me or sends it to me. Tweet it with the hashtag Side Character Nog, and yeah, that'll be pretty good. Hey Ty, I just started a new hashtag.
Yeah,
it's hashtag Side Character Nog, and I'm gonna have I've never had eggnog before, so I'm gonna have everyone tweet you their best eggnog recipes.
Ooh, I'm okay with that.
Hashtag Side Character Nog.
So mine is a dash, 3 parts nog, store-bought nog, 1 part rum, and a more than a dash of nutmeg with like 3 cubes of ice.
Okay.
Mix that all in together.
I'm drinking Blue Moon's Winter Wheat beer, which is basically my version of pumpkin spice lattes.
Ooh, yeah.
It's not pumpkin flavored because pumpkin is garbage. Don't at me. Okay, anyways, and we're back. So Ty, have you decided, will you reveal to us the identity of the main character?
I can't, considering what I just said, I can't imagine it having too huge of an impact if the listeners know this. So I don't think it spoils anything for future arcs by me revealing this. The main character of the story, the link of this story, the Frodo Baggins of this story is that little girl who Roderick was trying to find lost in the woods during the first arc.
Okay.
A half-elf girl with
with a purple cloak, exploring these caverns.
Does she have a name?
I have specifically chosen not to give her a name at this point, keeping in line with things like Legend of Zelda, where they do not have names.
Well, don't they?
Okay.
Don't
real
they?
talk. It feels like such an important decision to choose a name like that. I haven't wanted to choose one until it was necessary for canon purposes. You know,
Fair. Yeah, that's fair. Because you got to pick a good name.
yeah. And what if a character or a player comes to me and is like, I want to name my character Frankles. And I'm like, Frankles is already the name of a character. I've listened to the show. There is no Frankles. I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, no, dang it. You got me.
All right. Well, that's fair. Okay, so you heard it. The main character is Frankles, the half-elf.
I'm going to punch you in your face.
Hashtag canonize Frankles. tweet at Ty. Hashtag canonize Frankles.
But don't forget to send me that nog.
Yeah, do send that hashtag side character nog.
Oh shit. This is probably going to come out around. No, it's going to be after Christmas. Dang it.
Well, hey Ty, will it still be in time for Candle Nights, trademarked by Big Giant Head?
It will be a time for Candle Nights. Am I going to need to bleep that? Let's get on to the questions. We need to get back to the questions. Okay.
So this is another one that's been asked by multiple people along the same lines. So one person asked, do all of the stories take place over several different continents, or are they all relatively nearby? And along that lines, do you actually have a map drawn of the world as we know it so far, and can you post that somewhere?
So the answer is yes, I can post that somewhere. I do have a map drawn. I'll answer that first. Map is drawn. I do have one. I can post it. It is already out of date. So when I made it, the idea was that it was just a rough one based off of current canon. But since then, I've sort of refined some locations and stuff, and I've realized that it didn't quite line up. When you see it, when I reshare it for this episode, keep in mind some of the locations might be slightly tweaked as time goes on. As I need to adjust things for future arcs and so forth. So because my view is until something is concretely said in the show, it is not canon. So anything that you see on the Twitter feed, anything that I say here, this is all supplementary. Okay.
And so are all these events taking place near each other or over several different continents?
Gotcha. Sorry, thank you for bringing me back to that. So everything is taking place. Let me actually pull up the map so I can describe this a little bit.
Well, can you describe the main feature of the country that this kind of?
Yeah, the region that this is in is surrounded by a massive wall that is older than the history of this setting. This wall, nobody really knows where it's from, or like how it was created, anything like that. I've depicted it on the map as roughly circular. It is roughly circular. There are inside of this place. It's the sort of thing that a person could ride from one side to the other. Over the course, at least of a few weeks, maybe a few months. I'm not entirely. I haven't quite nailed that down. Scale, is a tricky thing for me, especially when you get magic involved and various different can horses in this world run the same number of miles as real world horses? What about griffins and things like that? Who knows?
Well, Sunlight's the fastest horse in the world.
Yes, and so Sunlight could definitely run. He could run from one side to the other in 2 days. But yeah, so giant, roughly circular wall surrounding this place. Nobody's been outside of that wall. At the top.
Well, did you not reveal that Silas came from out of the wall?
I think it would be fair for a listener to have figured that out, that Silas is from outside of the wall. So I'll let me sort of
that was in an episode.
It wasn't an episode? Was that made clear?
Yeah, you mentioned that I think on her last episode.
Okay.
Or Silas's last episode, Amber. Yeah.
Yeah. We got you. So at the north side of this circle, I always orient north, by the compass. North side of the circle, there's a very intense mountain range with almost an eternal blizzard raging. That's where Mount Rena is. That's where the most of the dwarves of this setting live. As you move south from there, there's like thick forest and foothills and so forth. Eventually you hit, if you're just going straight down, you will eventually hit some plains, then a river, then more plains, and then the pine forest that is on the southern end of the map. South Bend is at the top of that pine forest. If you go a little bit to the southwest, you're going to hit Flughaven and some swamps. If you keep going southwest, you will hit marshes and the Salton Seas, which are just this massive saltwater. It almost seems like a sea. It's a giant lake.
And there is a difference.
Yes, as the marine biologist here is quick to point out. If you follow that river that I mentioned, that's cutting through from east to west, if you follow that back east to its source, you get to a giant waterfall that's crashing over the wall. That's what Silas fell over in their first episode. And if you follow that river all the way to its other end, you get to a large lake, and you get to the inner wall, which is a much smaller structure just to the north of Cirque, which is the city on the circle, which is basically just sitting right below that inner wall structure. Does that all make sense?
Okay. Yes. It'll make more sense when you repost the map.
Yes, which I need to redraw to fit current canon.
Fun stuff, man. Yeah. Keeping everything canon.
Yeah, if you guys were to go onto Twitter right now as of the recording of this, you would be able to find this map somewhere, but it's not up to date. What's the next question?
Okay, so next question. When you started, did you have any core ideals or tenets about how you wanted to do the show? And if so, how have they changed? And then big :D, which I'm assuming is a big old smiley face.
Yeah. So I think I already mentioned earlier, there was a guiding principle to it of, the side characters and stories have value and importance and their own tales to tell. So there was that. On a more logistical side, I knew that just because, everybody that's tried to play D&D knows how hard it is to wrangle people. And I knew that it would be much, much easier if I did this in such a way that I could work with somebody for a few episodes, and then we could call it quits based off of what their interest was. Basically, we could stop the show before they ran out of interest. Stop the arc. Beyond that, I'm sure there's other things as well. This Nog is making me forget.
Hashtag side character Nog.
Hashtag side character Nog. One of the things is that I wanted to try to do something new every arc, whether that be logistically, socially, game-wise, something. I wanted to do something new every time, and I've managed to do that. So, yeah, I guess that's the principle. the two main principles, guiding principles of this show have been side characters have value and try to do something new.
Man, that's just a good way to live your life. Hey, everyone has value. Also, try this new eggnog recipe from hashtag side character nog. All right, well, cool. Moving on to the next question here, and this is a question that I'm interested to hear the answer to, Ty. What has been your favorite story arc so far?
See, this is what...
Yeah, Ty. Hey, Ty. There is a right answer. Actually, there are two right answers, but you can pick one of those two. I'm just kidding. Pretend I'm not here, but make the right decision.
I'm sort of torn here because so I was not planning on if I had been the one choosing questions, I wouldn't have done this one. So thank you, Eli, for doing that. Okay, actually, while I think about it, tell me, of the ones you have not been a part of, what has been your favorite so far? We'll exclude Alton since it's just started and also your wife.
Yeah, I will say this. I did enjoy that first episode of Alton that's come out. I actually really liked Deirdre's episode. And I think, I don't know what it is. I think part of it is there's this great quote by Patrick Rothfuss, or not quote, but an idea that he had where to make interesting fiction, write what you know. And I think the same goes along with enjoying fiction. So while I am a scientist by trade, during my undergrad, I actually minored in religious studies. So I'm always interested in fictional religious stuff. So that's one reason why I kind of enjoyed playing Roderick, and that's the religion of Deirdre, despite not really going into a whole lot of detail. Just the idea of this like war priestess kind of vibe was very interesting to me. Yeah. So to me, that one was a really interesting one. I mean, they've all been interesting for different reasons. I will say this also, while I enjoyed playing Roderick, I did not expect anyone to enjoy listening to Roderick. Mostly because, I mean, Roderick's the basic, like, you know, he's the thing that's wrong with the world, right? The basic religious conservative white man. So I was like, man, as soon as I started playing that character, I was like, people are gonna hate this guy. So I was pleasantly surprised to hear about like people actually enjoying the characters. Nice. That was cool. But yeah, I'll say this. I'll make it easier on you, Ty.
Yeah.
We'll change it up to, what's your favorite NPC that you've created? Okay, I've made it more difficult.
That's much harder for me.
Choose your favorite child.
So what I'll say is, as far as the, I'll answer this as like the first question, like what's my favorite arc, and there's two that stand out to me, and I feel like I can answer these without offending anybody. The first one I would say would be Lexi's, because the first one would be Irk's, the second one would be Sir Roderick's. No, the first one would be Lexi's, because it was the first time I had done this with somebody I had never played D&D with before, and it just so happened somebody that had never played D&D before, which I did not realize going in. And those were two like big goals for this, and it went so much more smoothly than I expected. And also, the second episode of that arc, like it played out so well. It was I really enjoyed it. It was very smooth. I liked a lot.
Sure. Yeah, that was an interesting one.
Yeah.
It was interesting to listen to because my experience with Dungeons and Dragons is, okay, you've solved this puzzle, now you get to fight this enemy.
Yeah.
And Lexi's was interesting because there was a little bit of combat, right? But not like, that was not the point.
No. Yeah.
And that was interesting to listen to.
Yeah. I've been trying to make sure to not rely too much on combat. But the other one that I think stands out in my mind as a favorite is the one with Renee from Fate and the Fable Maidens. because I've always wanted to do. I love Halloween specials.
The Halloween special.
Yes, I love Halloween specials, and once again, that one, like, it was. I threw it together so quickly. Like, from conceiving of what the arc was going to be, reaching out to like a few different people, choosing Renee as like the person that I would work with, and then actually recording it, editing it, releasing it. All of that happened in like 3 weeks, I think, which like is so much faster than any other episode that we've ever done on this show. Like this particular episode is probably going to be the only thing that's giving that a run for its money. Although we've been collecting questions for a long time, so maybe not.
Sure.
But yeah, that sort of like ease of turnaround was so like refreshing. And also, most episodes I record like an hour, 2 hour. I record like 2 hours ish, and then edit it down to like an hour. Hers was maybe like an hour 10, hour 5, something like that, and edited down to like an hour solid. I think something like that. Like, it was so it was edited. It was such a tight recording schedule that just worked very well. Which,
yeah, it was a well done episode.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it. All right, so next question is from this real handsome sounding guy. Have you considered doing episodes with more than one guest?
This is a question from Eli. I have considered doing that. I've considered doing that for specials. I've considered doing that for special occasions. If I was to do it, it would really need to be with some people. Like, I would only do this with people that I know have played together before, and I have had on before, people that I'm very comfortable with, because just out of nerves, I don't think I could handle otherwise. You know,
dude, bump that. Anyone wants to play with me, I'll do it with anyone. I don't want to die again. I need a bodyguard before I come back on this show.
Mm-hmm.
Not again. Not again. Not like this. Okay.
So like, I might do it, but like, I take a really long time to edit episodes. So like, the idea of bringing an extra voice on that I have to deal with, like, just ugh.
Sure.
It would have to be like a one-off, you know, something that's special so that it's not setting expectations for the future, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of taking a turn, what was the first podcast that got you hooked? I'm assuming on like sort of actual play podcast.
I'm not 100% sure about this. I think like it would make sense to me if the first one I tried was the Adventure Zone. I was listening to my brother and me well before the Adventure Zone came out. And when the Adventure Zone came out, I was like, oh, this is fun. And I started listening to some other, I think that was the first one that I listened to. Maybe I listened to other D&D shows before that, but I think that was the first one. I started listening to some other ones, and they were, you know, I'm not going to mention the ones that didn't quite grab me.
Sure, that would be kind of mean.
Often, like, ones that didn't grab me were very successful. Some of them more successful than the Adventure Zone. The only other one that I eventually listened to that I was like, this one also has entered my permanent queue was Sneak Attack, which I've mentioned a few times before.
Okay. Okay, so sort of getting back into the story and the world of Side Character Quest. One question asker asks, will we ever get more backstory about the Wall Climbers? For those who don't remember, the Wall Climbers were the group that kind of plagued South Bend before Sir Roderick valiantly defeated their leader and spread them to the four winds.
So the short answer to this is yes, we will get some more about them. A slightly longer answer to this is so when Eli and I were first talking about Sir Roderick, he had presented this idea that Sir Roderick had dealt with these brigands a few years before and had sort of shaped him from just being a sort of, you know, I don't know, kind of jockish. How would you have described how he was prior to his run in with the Wall Climbers?
I think he went from being someone with undeserved confidence that everyone kind of made fun of behind his back to someone that people are like, oh, he really is very good.
Yeah. That is very much what it is. And he had told me that, you know, he earned this respect through a run-in with these brigands that had been like going from place to place, causing a lot of problems. And that was pretty much all we had said about them. But when we started recording the first Sir Roderick episode, it just sort of came up naturally that Eli was going to drop the name of this group of people. And he was like, well, there's a wall around this place. I'm going to call them the Wall Climbers. And he just did it. He didn't like say that. He just did.
Yeah, that was 100% off the cuff.
Yeah. So that did not, prior to that, my mindset about the Wall was that nobody at all whatsoever has had like really the desire to climb over it, because it's just so incredibly like imposing. It would be like somebody walking up to the Atlantic Ocean who has no idea what boats are and saying, I'm gonna get to the other side of that. Like, that's sort of like the vibe people get when they see the Wall.
But then you do have to remember that at one point someone did come to the Atlantic Ocean and said, I'm going to get to the other side of that.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. And so that's why when Eli was just like, Wall Climbers, I was like, well, I guess somebody had this thought at some point. Okay. So that's actually a big part where like a character or a player making just a one-off, you know, just a random choice during the show has had like major lore implications.
That's right, listeners. Not only did I, Eli, create the gods, but I also created all crime in this world.
Wonderful. This setting is pretty peaceful. It's pretty like the interpersonal, the humanoid conflict. I don't know the right word I want for that. Is not super high. This group of people, obviously, them existing, even if though it was a few years ago and it was a fairly short-lived group, that has a big impact, and it's going to have left like scars on people. So we'll hear more about them, definitely.
Sure, right on. What was the reason for your style of show / concept? So what made you decide to do this kind of podcast?
Like, what made me decide to do a one-on-one D&D thing?
I assume. I know. What was the reason for your style of show / concept? Hey, Ty, I didn't write this question.
Who wrote this question?
Derek wrote this question, as well as several others. So thanks for sending in questions, Derek.
Nice. So yeah, I think I kind of addressed this, like part of the idea. You said style as well.
So what is the reason for your style of show / concept?
Gotcha.
Why do you do this? So why are you like this?
As far as like why Dungeons and Dragons, that wasn't really set in stone. As you can see from the fact that on Silas's arc, I tried Monster of the Week, and there's a lot of good to be said for Monster of the Week. But I think that at this point, I'm going to be sticking with Dungeons and Dragons for the future, and that's just because I'm more familiar with it. I'm more comfortable. Improvising and knowing when I can fudge the rules without breaking things.
All right. And I do want to correct myself. The question asker's name was Derek, not Darren. Both of those, of them did write in a lot of questions, but that one was from Derek. The next question is also from Derek, and it's one that I like a lot. Describe your favorite D20. We all have one. Hey, Ty, what's your favorite D20?
So for any listener that doesn't actually play Dungeons and Dragons yet, a D20 is just a 20-sided die. So a lot of people I know fall into the trap of like just buying a million sets of dice. Eli's shaking his head. Do you not have a million sets of dice?
I don't have a million full sets of dice. I have some dice that I've accumulated for different reasons. I think I have 3 full sets of dice, one of which is exclusively used by Mallory, one of which you gave me for Christmas, which has a bunch of strangely numbered die, and then one that was my first set of dice. I think I have more, like I've picked up this dice or this one to use for a different game. Yeah, so I don't have a million full sets. I have 3 full sets and then a bunch of little odds and ends that I've picked up here or there.
Gotcha. So I think we are kind of an exception among Dungeons and Dragons players, people that have been playing for as long as us. He's like, I only have 3 sets. I have a set that I got as a gift, which is a cool like metal set, kind of chrome metal set that's really nice and weighty. I have a blue set that came with the Dungeons and Dragons 5e starter set, which, you know, obviously I don't hold any strong feelings for that just because it's the default set that I got. But then I have an orange set, and it's sort of like this orange covered with like, or maybe I guess it's yellow with like a reddish orange speckling all over it. I
remember those.
With the green lettering. Yeah. You can see them in my webcam. I got those when I first started playing Dungeons and Dragons with where Eli was DMing. All those years ago. Oh my god! And it's the primary set that I still use to this day.
Right on. That's a fun question. Really gets to the heart of Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, here's a good one. They're all very good, but some of these you've kind of answered. This one kind of gets to a similar note as to like where do the stories take place compared to each other. When do the stories take place compared to one another? Are they all happening concurrently? If not, what is the timeline?
1 second. I actually wrote out the timeline a couple of weeks ago. So let me pull that up.
It's actually kind of interesting while you're looking this up. It's interesting to hear some of these answers on my end because even though I would venture to guess, I don't want to assume, but I feel like I'm more in the know than a lot of people that are involved in this podcast. I don't know the answers to a lot of these. So
you probably know the most about all of this. Like there's some things that you don't know, obviously, but like you definitely know more than cumulatively you know more than anybody else. All right, I'm going to try to just like say stuff to you, and if it ends up not really making sense, then let me know and we'll
hit me with it. Hit me with that good timeline.
Roughly 4 years before the first episode, the wall climbers become a known threat in this world. Roughly 3 years ago, Silas crosses over the wall via that waterfall. At that time, Roderick and Clara are searching for the wall climbers. And sometime after that, maybe somewhere around 6 months after that, Roderick, in a confrontation with the wall climbers, kills their leader.
Damn straight.
Around this time, sometime in that window, Velma has taken to living in the Southern Pines. Or sorry, not the Southern Pines, in the pines south of South Bend. Just before episode 1, Annie orders some special mushrooms. That main character that we mentioned earlier, the child in the purple cloak, and her mother go looking for the mushrooms. Around this time, Goblin Godfrey is heading to Flukehaven to build up his franchise. Episode 1 happens. Roderick does his stuff. A few days after Roderick's arc ends, Annie has gone off on her own to go look for a separate source of her mushrooms. a few weeks after that, Silas goes to Flukehaven. So maybe like 2 weeks after the first episode, Silas goes to Flukehaven, meets Clara. All that shit happens. Around that same time is when Alton is going to the gala. I think that's everything that I can say. Oh, as for when Deirdre's stuff is happening, it's happening somewhere in that window. But it's
like unaffected.
It's not super important when it happens relative to those at this point in time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it's all of the episodes are happening roughly at the same time at this point.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, this is an interesting question, Ty, because you, as far as I know, have not played as much as you've DM'd.
Yeah.
But what is your favorite class to play as in Dungeons and Dragons?
I think as far as if I'm going to be an NPC, I've decided to stop like trying to strictly make an NPC fit a particular class. They can be, whatever they are. They don't have to be strictly a rogue or strictly a whatever. As far as like when I am playing, I like to play somebody that's very utility based. Somebody who like is a druid, so they can like walk on water, or you can change your shape. I like doing those sorts of things. You can solve puzzles in surprising ways.
Okay.
I also like the idea of, I had a character who was a bard who I gave them a bunch of skills, abilities that would allow them to be an illusionist, so they could be like pretending to be other characters. So because one of my favorite things in media is when you have a character pretending to be an actor playing a character playing a character.
Okay.
I love that. So I really like the idea of getting to play like a bard illusionist.
Can I tell you my dream character?
Yeah.
Okay, I've always thought it'd be really fun to play a rogue who pretends to be a wizard.
You've told me this before. It's very good. I like that a lot.
Like, he's very good at just like making things happen with sleight of hand, and people think he's a wizard. But then I think it'd be even more fun to, as the story goes, multi-class him as a wizard.
Go into Arcana.
So he's like actually learning magic, but is mostly just a rogue. That's the dream.
Oh, I dig it.
Okay, yeah, here's a good one that you've kind of touched on. How long does it usually take to edit an episode?
General rule that I've developed for myself is an hour every 15 minutes of audio.
Holy crap.
Yeah. That's not always the case. There's going to be some episodes and some stretches of time where I barely have to do any editing. There's going to be some episodes where like large sections can just get immediately cut, and I just, I know that this is mostly dead silence, so I can just skip through all of it. So obviously, like, those ones are going to skew the average. And so if you included that stuff, like, it would drive it down to probably like 40 minutes every 15 minutes. Okay. Which is more reasonable. But yeah, I think that often if I start editing an episode at like 7 o'clock, I'll be done at like 1 or 2.
Hey, Ty.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop dumping on you for being late.
Somebody has to. And I prefer that it's you than the listeners.
Okay. Well, cool. So now we have a few fun ones that we've picked out. Just a couple fun ones. What is your favorite Pokemon? And Ty? Is it still Cubone?
Oh, hey, it is still Cubone.
Okay. You know why I know that?
Why?
Because you had the coolest t-shirt when we were living together.
Oh, I still have that t-shirt. It's so cool.
And you're wearing a pretty cool t-shirt now.
Oh, yeah, I'm wearing a Magikarp t-shirt that I got from a store.
It's pretty cool.
I'm not going to name drop the store because,
they can pay you.
They can pay me. And I'd take it. Wear these clothes all the time.
Right on. Hey, you want to text me the name of that store so I can see if I can find that shirt?
Oh yeah. I'll totally text you the name of that store. It's just okay. There it is.
Dude, it would be them.
It would be them, right?
Dang, I have so many good shirts from them.
Wait, really? Oh, nice.
Yeah, actually there was one in Tokyo when Mallory and I were in there for our honeymoon, but there's also one in Orlando. Anyways, they're very good.
Yeah, they're good.
Okay, so Cubone.
If you want a newer answer, like one that's from a more recent generation, I'll toss in a Gavantula or a Joltik maybe.
Listeners of the McElroy's special brand of podcast will enjoy this one. Hey Ty.
Yeah, bud.
Face cat or hand dog?
So I had this debate with some friends of mine the other day. I feel like the premise of this, you got a cat with a human face or a dog with human hands. And I feel like the argument against the argument for face cat is always an argument against hand dog. It's always saying like hand dog is going to get into trouble. Hand dog's going to cause problems. Hand dog's going to be a pain in your butt, in your human butt. Whereas in my eyes, you should be arguing, if you're really arguing for face cat, you should be telling me why face cat would bring joy into my life. I can see how I can see how hand dog would bring pain into my life and how it could bring joy to my life. I can only see how face cat would bring pain to my life.
Can I tell you my argument against face cat?
Yeah, go for it.
I have a cat.
Yeah.
You've met my cat.
I met your cat. She's a lovely cat.
She's a pleasant cat. She's a great cat. Some of my favorite things that my cat does would be haunting if she had a human face.
Does she ever present you with like a half-eaten rat?
No.
Because that would be horrifying.
She presented me with a still alive mouse once. And
I don't want to see that.
Okay, so she started doing this thing because me and my wife are very loving cat parents. Sometimes when my wife is feeling a little blue, Cersei, our cat, will climb on her and kind of give her little kitty kisses, just kind of like bump her nose into Mallory's nose, and it's adorable. Now, if that had a human face, it would not be adorable.
Whereas
it would be haunting.
Whereas with hand dog, you know,
high fives,
exactly. Like just hands down. That's a pretty good thing.
Human hands down.
You can teach the hand dog all sorts of tricks. The only thing you can teach face cat is to maybe look away, please, for once.
Please just don't look at me.
Stop looking at me. I can't handle this. Yeah, so definitely hand dog.
Okay, so back to some more serious questions. What do you think is the most important ingredient for a good Dungeons and Dragons arc?
Anytime I build up a character arc, I want to build in a sizable amount of character interaction. I want to build in a good bit of like puzzle solving, some combat, and like a little bit of like lore, and also room for the person to like explore their character and express like their individuality. So I don't want to create a puzzle where like you solve this puzzle by like the only puzzle in this game is like something that you solve by doing the pre-planned thing. I want you to be able to do it in a way that shows off why your character is cool.
Yeah, that's good. Can I so I don't have as much DMing experience, but I've gotten a little bit of GMing experience under my belt lately. I think that there are a few very important things, like you said, character interaction. So not just how do the NPCs interact with the players, but also how do the NPCs interact with other NPCs? Like, are these NPCs viable characters on their own? And that kind of builds into the lore. But the other thing to me is also very much it's very much the lore, is like what is happening outside of the story. to me, the best parts of fiction, so the best fictional franchises, such as The Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Harry Potter, there is not just a very well-written story, but there's a well-thought-out what else is happening outside of the story. And I think that ties into Dungeons and Dragons a lot.
That's a really good point. Like, one of the things that I've really tried to keep in mind in all of the things that we've seen is like, why do these places exist? So all of the different places that you guys have seen so far, like the place, the underground civilization slash like bunker slash whatever it was that Roderick saw, the fort that Annie was searching in, the other fort that Deirdre found, the weird like gatehouse that Deirdre found, the fortress that was in Flughaven. All of these different places had very specific reasons why they existed. And like I had like, it wasn't just like they were there to present a place for puzzles to be had. Like it was like they existed because they were serving, they previously or currently served a purpose for a group of people. Because nobody's just, aside from the Halloween episode, nobody's going to create a place that is just there to confuse somebody, you know?
Sure.
So you're right. Like keeping in mind the lore really like helps you develop puzzles that like make sense and create obstacles that add to the world.
Yeah, very good. How about one more question?
One more question, yes.
One more question. Okay, last question. I closed out of the questions.
You monster.
Okay, oh, no, I remember what it was. Okay, last question. What is your favorite part of playing or DMing an RPG?
I really like when I get like one of my favorite moments is when somebody does something that confuses me and where I am like, why did you do that? Why would you ever do that? That is like the best moment where I'm just like, I don't know how to react to you right now because this makes no sense to me. I love that. It's very good. Which, you know, that was one of the things that I really liked about Silas's episodes is that like I was blindsided by all of these choices that they were making, which was great. And the way that you were playing Roderick was like so different than you had ever played any characters. So like I was getting surprised by choices you were making, even though I think the listener, it might have seemed a little bit more like straightforward and logical, but it was like so not how you play characters.
Well, it was Roderick, wasn't Eli.
It was very Roderick. Those are the sorts of things that I love. Those moments of just being like, what is happening right now? Yeah.
Sure. Right on. Well, cool. Yeah, for me, it's always been the I always have a bunch of stories in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really gotten into writing, but I've always liked to think that I could write if I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like RPGs are a way to get those out.
Yeah.
To kind of like tell the story with a group of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting media, and it's fun. It's Justin McElroy, I believe, put it this way once. Did you enjoy playing games as a kid, like Imagination, but want to add rules to that?
Nice.
So, and it's very true. It's very much like your childhood Imagination, but with some rules, with physics involved.
Here's a fun little question. I know we said that was going to be the last one, but I'm going to ask a question for you. Of the characters in the show so far, you can even include like Roderick. You can include your own character. Who's like a character that you would like one of these characters to meet? Who is from like another, either from another arc in this show or from another show entirely, not even side character quest.
Well, we know that Silas and Roderick did meet at one point.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Amber seems like a fantastic person, but when they said that Silas did not trust Roderick, I was immediately offended. who would not trust Roderick? I think okay. So I think it'd be really interesting for either Roderick or Deirdre, who both have similar religious convictions. It'd be interesting for them to meet because their religion is like their convictions are similar, but they seem to have different paths.
Mm-hmm.
Or for one of them to meet Merle Hightower, Merle High Church, Merle Hightower High Church, just to see the just the religious mix of things. That would be very interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think seeing any of these characters interact with each other would be very interesting, just because of how interesting they're all very interesting characters, and you can tell that each character that's been on the show, the players have put in a good bit of thought into, like, if not their backstory, then their aesthetic. There's always been very vivid imagery of what these characters are like. It's one thing I've really enjoyed.
Cool. Well, I think that's where we should wrap things up. This has gone on at the upper limit of what I said I wanted it to be. Yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to thank everyone who's sending questions. I want to thank Ty for having me back once again after killing my beloved Roderick.
Don't worry, I'm sure you'll get another chance on the show.
I'm not going to die next time, Ty.
No promises.
Oh no. Oh jeez. All right, well, this has been Side Character Questions. I've been Eli.
And I've been Ty.
Thanks for listening. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Thank you
and
for reading.
We're back.
Thanks to the Joy Drops for the use of Not Drunk as our intro and outro music. Find them at thejordrops.com. You can find us at sidecharacterquest.com, at SCQ Podcast on Twitter, or by email at sidecharacterquest@gmail.com.
Bloopers. Okay, so does everything sound like it's coming good?
Yeah, you sound so much better than you did in the early episodes.
Cool, well, fuck you too. Yeah. How do you want to start off?
Oh wait, actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Oh, wait, so you can lead in.
Okay,
when you're ready.
Cool. Oh man, you gonna give us one of your classic Thai characters?
Oh geez, I haven't gotten to do those in a while.
I know, I've been missing them.
Well, like with it's been like an issue of like I don't want to scare off somebody that's like
anyone. Yeah. All right, listeners, it's you and me once again, back in the saddle. It took me a lot less time to fix my drink than Ty's taking, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you who the main character is. It's Sheriff Jaime. That's right, the sheriff. No, I'm just kidding. It's not the sheriff. It is Moonbeam, the skeleton horse. He's going through a lot right now. He had to deal with the loss of his dear friend Sir Roderick, being stuck in a skeleton horse body with the mind of a adult human. Moonbeam's going through a lot. Sometimes I wonder how long it takes to pour a glass of eggnog. Kind of feels like he should be done by now, but I don't know. We're still here. Just you and me, once again, listening to the beautiful voice that is me, Eli. Oh, also, I want to take this time to apologize if anyone has tried to look up my Star Wars blog since the end of the Sir Roderick arc. I have not actually done anything with it. I recently started a second job, and 2 jobs kind of limits my writing time. So I apologize. Oh, here's Ty. This is great radio.
Yeah, this is gonna get cut.
It's gonna get cut and put in the bloopers.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to use the "this is gonna get cut and put in the bloopers" for the new bloopers tag. Because keeping on hearing saying there's gonna be music and then bloopers is awful every other week. Bloopers.
Bloopers. That's the new one.
Here, I'll give you the new bloopers tag. These are the bloopers. Nope, I feel like I still said it weird.